Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Last Epoch. My name is Wilfred. So now that I've spent there about 160 hours playing this game since the launch after I exited the early access, I would like to share with you my final thoughts on the current state of the game, which is Cycle 1 or Season 1. And I'll also go into a little bit details on what I think works really great for this game and what I would like to see improvement in the near future. So we'll get to that in just a bit. A little bit background here. I am a keen supporter of ARPG or loot-based action role-playing game. I've spent many hours on some of the big titles or even small titles out there. So long as it's good gameplay, I'll devote my time to it. So to play Last Epoch, to give you some context, I have not read up any build guide or anything to just play the game as I learn, experience the game. It took a little bit longer, of course, but I enjoyed the experience less like a job per se. And the only thing I really research on is towards the end of the late game or end game. I have to look up what sort of items database available for my class or for my build, so I can do a little bit more targeted farming. And that was the only research I've done. Another research I've done is the loot filter, because that is quite a complex topic. Once you get it right, then you spend a lot of time playing and not sorting through your inventory. So I did look up a bit of a guide from there, but I didn't copy any loot filters template as well. I just built my own based on what I've learned. So all in all, fantastic game. If you enjoy something that has the depth of say complex game like Green Dawn or Path of Exile, and you crave for some of this depth because you want to really able to customize, experiment your character, and you also may not want to read up too much of the guide and follow all the build, the pawns and attribute recommendation, then this game is really for you. It reminds me a lot more on the Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Martyr. I played that too, and I hardly need to read any guide at all. I didn't have to. Just have to figure out things on your own, like Marvel Heroes as well. I enjoy playing that, something that I just figure out things out, and it's good. But it doesn't require a lot of research, like say if you play Path of Exile or even Diablo 3, Diablo 4 for that matter. You need to read up on the guide to do a higher content to reach the end game. So this game doesn't require you to. My Necromancer started off with a bunch of permanent pets. You may have seen it in some of the live streams I have got, and then I transit to an end game build, which is using a Wrath Lord, which is what you see in this video here as the edit on the monolith farming. So I managed to just learn on the go and read the in-game guide as well. There are really good in-game guides if you're unsure about what certain stat do for your build. And I think it's a good thing, a really good game. It's a strong recommendation. There's no doubt about it. If you enjoy loot-based ARPG, you will have a lot of fun playing it. Everything is very fluid. I have no problem with it, and all the combats are very kind of engaging as well. I would say I love the way that the encounter. So they do have difficult encounter as well for you to not to ignore fully on the mechanics and still play the game as it is intended. Not just like, say for example, you become so powerful so easily that you just one shot everything, and just bypass all the mechanics. So there are still things that kind of like threaten you, the characters, and there's a constant kind of like stress to it, which is kind of thing I think is good. That's what we need as well. Otherwise, it becomes so boring that you just click through the screen and loot items, and that's not why we play games like this one. Now, let's go into the areas where I think Last Epoch does really well. That's my opinion, of course. It brings in a lot of innovation. So the very first one that all of you will experience on day one is the depth of the skill tree. So each of the skill will have a skill tree on its own, and it gives you multiple kind of like options to do, and you can actually complement your skills from one to the other as well. So there's a lot of depth to it, and you can be pretty flexible to build the way that you want to be. It synergizes with, say, if you play a necromancer, it can synergize you having a lot of minions or just a few minions, or what damage type it does, or what the minions do, how you buff them, or how you help them, and so on. So there is a lot of depth to what you can build. As in when you change your build philosophy. So for example, if you, instead of getting an army of permanent kind of pets, you can have only a few, or you can have temporary one as well. So there are many things you can build as a necromancer, as an example. And I'm pretty sure that extends to the rest of the classes as well. The passive also pretty interesting. You started off with, say, a base class like Acolyte, and you can specialize into, say, a necromancer, but it doesn't stop you from putting some points onto other subclass as well, just to gain some early benefit. If that help you or make sense to you, then you can do that too. No one's stopping you from grabbing some of the skill points and even skills from other subclasses that you're not specializing into. So that opens up a lot of build opportunity, I would say. And so that is one thing I really like about it. The skill also works very well with the itemization as well. So you could kind of increase the skill points, or certain skill interact in a certain different way. And some of the unique item may also transition you into thinking about a more end game kind of build, rather than what you have been playing for the last, 100 odd hour to level up your character to 100. So that is really good. A lot of thinking behind it. To reset the skill, just a matter of kind of de-specializing it and to swap the skills around. But you do need to spend a little bit of time to level up the skill again. At the lower level, it may sound quite daunting, but at the end game, it's just a matter of 5 minutes. You go into another kind of like time echo, they call it. You can go into an echo, play 1 or 2 echoes. When you come out, you already have all the points that you have that you need to specialize in. So that's okay. It's not too prohibiting. It doesn't prohibit you from changing your build, and also it doesn't make it too easy that you could just on the fly just click off the points here and there. For the passive, you can use your goal to reset some of these points and fine tune. I do find it a little bit tedious to reset my passive, especially there's a lot of requirement as in how many points for you to unlock certain points, and it's not at all obvious how you could quickly adjust the skill tree. But I mean, those are just nitpicking. I don't really mind. I don't change my passive that often either. So that's one thing. So that's really good. I think it's one big innovation on the skill tree for all the skills that we have. My criticism on that also, I mean, there are 2 points to it. The other criticism is it's not at all obvious what the skill do, especially for the minion one I'm referring to. They do a lot of like percentage on the other plus percentage, or multiply the percentage onto your base damage, but it's not at all obvious what are the base damage like, and what is the maybe the cooldown attack speed of each one of them. For minion, you can't tell what each of the minion do. You can't really tell whether should I be taking this minion versus that minion, of course, with the mindset that some of these minions may have a different utility to them as well. But at the fundamental DPS level, or even the defensive level, how they are flaring, the game doesn't tell you that, and you can't even observe it. So I find that as someone who loves theory crafting, it's a very big missed opportunity, because I can't even articulate or even like imagine how one minion will do better than the other minion type, and what should I be expecting into fire or poison or what have you. It's very, very just by the feel, like, oh, okay, you've done it, that you feel stronger. And feel usually is not the best kind of like comparison, because each of the echo may have their own difficulties. So some of these echo, the health of the enemies become higher, or they can dodge, or they have glancing blow and so on. So it's very hard for you to feel like, oh, am I really stronger by using this or that? I find it very difficult, but I think it's something that I'm hoping to see improvement along the way. So that is on the skill itself, big topic, so I spend a little bit more time on it. Also along with it is the itemization. So I found that the crafting is really, really fun. I think I play many ARPG, and this one is one of the most accessible kind of like crafting, that that it kind of limits you the amount of time you can craft an item up to a certain point, that you can't do it. So it's a little bit of like trade-off there. You can't make your item like godlike kind of like items. Maybe like Chronicon is a good example. You can do it actually. You can make a godlike kind of like items, and based on what you want to do with these items, and you kind of like using just the XP to or just refarm the material to do that. So that's one extreme. Diablo 3 require a very high cost to keep rolling into a stat that you want or range that you want. And after a while, it becomes so daunting, because the cost becomes so high. You can do it, but you don't have you probably don't want to spend that kind of time just to keep rolling it or collecting money for it. Go for it. This game is wonderful. It limits the number of time you can craft, and of course you can play around that with a bit of like glyph and rune combination. But they kind of put a stop somewhere that, okay, enough is enough, and that is the best you can get. Please go ahead and farm another items and try to make a better version of it. So that I think is a really, really good design. I personally love it. It also, it is not so random as in, say, so I mean, I like to go back to Diablo 4 as an example. I know they are coming up with a big patch to address the itemization and looting kind of like mechanism, but I still found that the getting the right set of affixes in Diablo 4 is so much more tedious, and also because they you have to, I mean, they're very narrow in terms of like what you can do to be a strong build, versus in Last Epoch, you could actually be a little bit flexible on the affixes and not to chase certain thing too hard, and you still have a pretty good decent fun by looking into different type of damage, if that makes sense to you. Rather than, if you don't have the crit that you want, that's fine. You can have some penetration here and there, and it still work pretty well. You can have some fat damage plus damage somewhere, it still work pretty well. So it doesn't force you into that kind of like, oh, you must have all these overpower whatever like D4 to shine and be awesome. You can be awesome in your own way. In this game, Last Epoch, at least for the content that you'll be doing up to a certain point. So I think that is a really good setup as well. Love it. Then of course, when it comes to itemization, we have to talk about the innovation on the circle of fortune as well as merchant's guild. So that is a big thing. I've not seen a game developer that attempt to please both camp of those who love trading and both those who don't, right? So as a case for each one of them, I'm not going to go through that. I think while it is fun to put a value to an item based on what you found and see how much it fetch, wonderful. I think that use the open economy to determine the value of your loot is a wonderful thing. Some just don't enjoy that. Some just enjoy playing their own game and getting the loot that you want. They want to hunt the loot, and if it doesn't matter, the loot is going to be a billion or 2 billion kind of like the value to it. The value to me is really, I get this item, has affixes that I want, wonderful, I can use it. So that's great. I joined Circle of Fortune, so the jobs are a lot more kind of like rewarding in some sense, but don't I'm not going to sugarcoat the whole thing. Sometimes you keep farming for the same thing, but it's very hard to still get what you want, even with targeted farming. Versus if you have enough gold or you make enough money in the open economy, you can just buy the items that you want with the number of legendary potentials that you're targeting, right? So I get it. Even the Circle of Fortune as of now, there are some kind of like, I say pros and cons to it. It's not always a sure win, but that's fine. It is to cater for the play style more than anything else, in my opinion, right? So I enjoy. I think it's very innovative. Can they improve on this? Yes, they can. I'm pretty sure they can look into a way to fine tune certain things, or maybe use some kind of AI to understand how to tune the Circle of Fortune a little bit better, a little bit more relevant to those people who do not enjoy the trading that much and so on. So that's my thought around it. And for the Merchant Guild, I've also read a lot of news about the some of the exploit and so on that kind of ruin the market in some sense. So I'm not going to comment too much on that. I'm pretty sure over time they'll find ways to make it better for each of them. But like I said, it's a very, very good innovation. A developer who attempt to please both camps at the same time, which is not going to be easy for any other games to try to imitate or try to be inspired by this game to do the same. I think is something that is not going to be that easy. The loot filter is something I'd like to talk about as well, because I don't really see many games that have this level of customization when it comes to the loot filter. Like Grim Dawn has a loot filter too, don't get me wrong, but it's still not as customizable than, say, compared to Last Epoch. You still end up with a vast amount of items that you may need to sift through. And the Last Epoch, right, is the loot filter is so wonderful. You can set up all these rules that with a priority to it, and you can evolve those rules as you mature in your character building. And my philosophy is this: if you can configure the loot filter so as to be able to minimize the amount of time you sell the item back to the vendor, I think that's a big win. In my opinion, if that means that everything you pick has some value to it, be it as for some future kind of for some future kind of usage. Like for me, I like to collect idols for the to just plug the resistance gap, for example, or say, for example, some affixes for shattering. There's some affixes that I always like to craft into that I'm targeting them to even things that I can use right now, because that's what I'm hunting. You can fully customize the entire loot filter. It make it so wonderful that when a loot drop, right, and if it show it in a manner, a color or emphasis that you have configured, you feel excited because, oh, that is something that I'm looking for. It appear rather than the game tell you that, oh, this is a legendary, like Diablo 3, for example. They say, oh, this is a legendary, but you pick it up and say, okay, that's not what I want. So the excitement is very different from when I see something on the screen that pop up on the color that catches my eyes, and the emphasis or the larger fonts that catches my eyes. Then I say, that is something that I need to look into. And I think that make this loot filter so powerful. Not just the filter itself, but the whole entire experience when you hunt for loot, the kind of excitement along the way, and you're not keep getting a lot of disappointment. Like Diablo 4, for example, at the current state is the complete opposite for the lack of loot filter. Everything you picked up, 99.99% is going to be junks, and you felt like, why am I even doing this? Am I a garbage collector? No disrespect, to the profession, but what I'm saying is that you collect a lot of things that are not just good, and you try to recycle them into gold, and what's the point, right? So that is my view of that. The boss encounter is super fun, I would say. The telegraph is very clear. It's a tough topic because while I really, really, really like the boss encounter design, and I think it has a lot of variation and depth to it, and it's wonderful, exciting. Every time I go into a boss, I know that I'm in for entertainment, but at the same time also frustration, right? Because of the whole some of them is roguelike element to it as well. unless you really gear very strong defensive, which sometimes will hurt your offensive. Many of these mechanic are going to be one shot, and if you mistime yourself, and you have to restart again. Now, restarting is not that difficult. Sometimes it's just going back to the start of the dungeon, which is enter and then you see a boss again. But sometimes how this dungeon is a roguelike dungeon, so all your effort trying to lead to a boss will be kind of wasted while you're learning the mechanic of the boss. So some of them are like that in this game. But I think all in all, we need to have this sort of threat as well. So no matter how powerful you are, you can't just skip all the boss mechanics and try to just one-shot the boss here and there, like say Diablo 4 or Diablo 3. That is a prime example. The boss appears, just gone the next second. World boss is another one. You have to abide to a certain mechanic, move around a little bit, and the mechanics are kind of like have enough variation to kind of punish different kind of build that you have. Maybe it punishes the melee a little bit more, it seems, but I think all in all, different build will have their own challenges facing different kind of bosses. The sheer amount of ability that a boss can have, like the Shade, is a good example. It's just mind-blowing. So sometimes I go into the fight like the Shade, I don't even know what I'm going to face. Is it going to be this type of damage, that type of damage, and each type of damage has like tons of other random skills as well, and make it really, really interesting. Right, every encounter is different. So to me, it's like that. But it can also be frustrating as well, especially if you're not very strong in DPS. Your fight tend to drag a bit longer, and the longer the fight drag on, the more likely we'll make a mistake, and that can cause a lot of frustration. One of my most disliked bosses would be the last ruin, the last one from Monolith. There's a tri-beam that spin around, and I have to use a mouse to trace around it. And I found that if I get too near to the circle, I hit the beam in front. If I get too far from the circle, I hit the beam behind, and the beam go quite fast as well. It depends on how fast I move, and also if they lay some of the kind of like lightning bolts around it, it's very easy to sometimes trigger it, and then you get stunned, and then the beam kind of like fly by you, and it's very punishing. So stuff like that make you feel very frustrated. My advice is just to possibly walk out and have a cup of water, maybe just take a walk first before you go back in and try again. It's not worth getting very stressed up on this one. But I mean, there's no punishment in that. You don't even need to repair your gear. You just need to redo the encounter again and to get better, and not to trigger certain mechanic, right? So I say there's a huge plus on the boss encounter design, but also the roguelike element to it can be a little bit frustrating as well. I can't offer any solution to this one, because to be fair, all the telegraph are very clear. So it's never a doubt like, why would the character get destroyed by the boss in the encounter. It's never that question. You cannot blame that we can't see certain things or so on. It's very clear that it's there. It's very clear that you should walk away from it so you can see better where is it coming, hitting you. But still, when it hits you, because we tend to sometimes make mistake, and it's painful. Roguelike. Not everybody loves roguelike, but it is how the game designed. Can't offer any advice to it, to how to change that. It's just part of the game that you have to love it. That's my thought on that. There's also another strong point about Last Epoch is that it doesn't require you to do a lot of boring stuff in order to do the fun stuff. Example like Diablo 4 is a prime example. You have to farm a lot of essence and do a lot of different thing, or do some kind of like bosses that you're no longer interested in farming, but you have to farm them for materials so as to be able to craft something to spawn the boss that you really want to go after. And and in between there aren't really any more kind of like reward in a sense, because majority of the loots are terrible. You're hunting for that unique in Diablo 4. But here, no, I mean, I you may say that the end game is very light in this very moment, which I don't disagree. But the monolith, for example, keep me entertained from echo to echo. Different echo has its own variation to it depending on the path that you've chosen. Some may be more difficult than others. Some could be a little bit more challenging than others as well. And because the sheer size of it and everything else, and inside you also want to hunt the Exile Mage, as well as there's a cache there, there's a chest there, big one. So it does, and you don't have to do it as well. It's optional, and you don't need to do all this kind of objective that's laid out to you. You just need to go for the main one. Unlike say Diablo 4 Nightmare Dungeon, it's like, oh, you have to do a step 1, then do a step 2, do a step 3, then the boss come, right? Here is pretty nice, and you can just focus on doing the fun thing. If you like to clear it fast, get on the next one, get the reward, then yeah, go for it. But if you want to just get more kind of like stability within the progress of the timeline into the boss, then you can do that too. So that there's no restriction on that, and you can just play the game as you play, and just focus on the fun thing, and not to do boring stuff. In fact, I don't think there are anything. I have no criticism for this game for having been forced to do something boring just to do something fun. I think eventually, of course, when you get all the gears that you want and you need, then it's time to play another character, I guess. That's how I feel, because after a point in any ARPG, you will come a point whereby the next upgrade is going to be a lot longer than the previous one, as you chase down the what you want to have. Or alternatively, you could also say, okay, I have enough with this build, like my permanent necromancer pets that I have, that I get rid of all this skill and some of this gear that I transition into a complete different set, because I want to play my necromancer in a different way, and I can do that too. Just you define your own goal and play the stuff that you want to play, right? I found that the pace is very fast, and and kind of, I have to say that this game respects our time. Even as a dungeon design or even as a map design, you can tell that there's a lot of loop everywhere. This means that you do not require to go back and forth. There's a lot of backtracking if you don't want to, right? Of course, if you're hunting for Exile Mage or some chest in some map, you could still backtrack a little bit. And the map isn't that huge as well, so backtracking even for a little bit to explore another area isn't that bad, and you don't have to. It's optional. Unlike, say, for example, Diablo 4 Nightmare Dungeon, like I always like to say, you tend to walk a lot and not really a lot of action. You tend to walk from one place, walk back, then walk to another place, walk back, kind of thing, just to do things, right? And that is not as fun. So I think this is really good. Kind of remind me of the Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Martyr that I like as well. That dungeon design is really good. In the event whereby, for the game, by the way, that there is a need to backtrack, they actually put a teleporter to teleport back to the place that you can start from there instead of backtracking all the way back from where you are at the dead end. So different game, designed different way. This game has a lot of loop in the map that allow you to just trace the loop and not to go to a dead end and kind of back out from it again. It's never fun for a map like that. So I enjoy it. The pace is very fast. Each echo is very fast moving. Dungeon can be a bit long, but I like the echoes in the monolith. It's very fast and fun. This game, Last Epoch, also have a minimum kind of like out of battle downtime. So allow me to share a little bit more on this one. What I mean by that is that in many games designed like this one, we adventure into a dungeon, we fulfill our objective, we collect our loot, and normally we come back and do our so-called, the administrative kind of part of the game, be as inventory management, see for what you want, maybe craft something or make yourself powerful here and there, right? So these are all downtime that you're not in combat, but you still need to do in order to make your character stronger. One extreme is like, for example, Diablo 4, whereby the encounter can be a little bit long as well. That every time you finish off like a hell, the hell, whatever it is, and the dungeon, you have to go back to town and to walk to many different places. You have to go to, first of all, you have to visit your vendor. You have to mark what you want to sell and what have you sell to a vendor. You go to the armor, if it is armor, to sort of like do some salvaging here and there. Maybe you need to go to different type of armor to do something. to your ring versus your actual weapon and armor. You may need to go to an enchanter to do something, to craft something into your gear. Then after that, you go back to your stash and put the thing inside. And in between, you need to ride a horse and climb the mountain just to do that, right? And the first few times is wonderful. You feel that you are in a very nice town. You kind of feel that, oh wow, this is my town, But when you have to do it every single time after an encounter, it's just so tedious. Last Epoch took the approach, like many other good ARPG. For example, Diablo 3 is one example. Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Martyr is another example. That everything will be around you, right? So when you return back from your mission or from your the echo, if you want to sell something, it's just next to you. If you want to collect the chest, it's just next to you. If you want to access your stash, just next to you. If you want to go for a next mission, just next to you. Everything is just confined to the little tiny kind of like area, just one single map there. That's it. That is where you need to go back and forth and get all your thing done. You don't need to go anywhere else to do anything. Grim Dawn is similar as well. So that is something I really, really, really enjoy, and I like that this is just like another example of how our time is being respected, not to give us things that we don't need. Just walking around town and admire the scenery for the 10,000 times. We don't need to do that. So that is something that I really, really enjoy. Very fast, quickly. You can do anything you want. Like I said, if your loot filter is strong, is relevant, even minimize the amount of time you need to do any inventory management. So it's really good. And the Last Epoch, if you notice, the mob density is very nice, and you feel that the action kind of change quite nicely from one encounter to another encounter. And after playing so many ARPGs, some are good, some are bad. It's not something that's given. Some game developers just don't get it. They kind of put the mobs too far apart, and you end up having to walk quite a fair bit to the next group. To have the constant pressure or stress that the mobs are coming your way, and sometimes can be really big number of them coming your way, is a treat. If you like the ARPG genre, it's a treat. And to add on top of that, right? Sometimes you encounter some enemy that is so deadly in Last Epoch that you have to watch where you are going or what are you encountering, because some of these have a tear path to it, like a mini boss kind of thing. And if you are not careful, you just get struck down. And of course, there's a lot of environmental things that happen around you as well that make you not just clicking the white space, but to be aware of what those adventures is, and they keep coming to you. So I think it's really good. I love the environmental and mob kind of like variation as well. It's very colorful. It's just like Grim Dawn. So these two games are like the very good one. I mean, even the Warhammer 40,000, you can see the indoor-outdoor differences. You can see some snow and so on for Warhammer game that I play. Grim Dawn also equally colorful, and the for Last Epoch, depending on the era that you go into as an Echo, and it could be very colorful as well. You can have a variety of what the mob type and the enemies are around you, and you can get a feel of, oh, okay, that's really kind of like engaging. Contrast to some games like maybe Diablo 4, that everything is just so dark and gloomy, and you don't feel like stimulated by the surrounding environment. I think Last Epoch is a lot closer to Grim Dawn when it comes to kind of detail around the kind of environment, on what you see and how you interact with it, and around it as well. So I think it has a little bit of that feel to it. I kind of like it a lot. So love the color, love the vibrancy. Last Epoch come with a lot of stash space as well. You can even configure your stash into different folder if you want. You can categorize it into 2 different levels. This stash will go into the first group, and then you group them to another one. So I think it's wonderful. It doesn't cost too much, especially on the late game, to buy any of these stash. So it's something that is not to be taken for granted. Again, Diablo 4, that that I don't find that I need to struggle to store items or so. However, I mean, of course, as a hoarder myself in any game, I do hoard quite a lot of things. But once I figure things out, I start to clean that up as well. But I never feel the stress of having to get ahead of myself and understand what's happening. I can just collect first, because of this fear of missing out. You just collect first, but then eventually when I learn it, I can start to clear off, and meanwhile I have all the stash I can do to collect all these items, so I can just keep playing, keep collecting, but not to think too hard on, I have a different, I got all this stash space problem, what should I do, and so on and so forth. So I think it's really good. There's a true offline mode, even on day one, which I think is a really good thing. Again, more like a Grim Dawn, that's for sure. Even Warhammer Inquisitor Marketer, they have created a offline mode, but that is more or less like maybe 6-7 years later. Diablo 3 is still require internet, so not all the game has gone down that path on day one, especially to just respect. Some people do not want to connect to internet to play a game, just want to play offline. I see the charm of it. Sometimes you do go overseas, or sometimes you may not have the internet, and you can still play the game. Grim Dawn is a great example. I played it offline a lot of times, just when I'm on a holiday. Sometimes if I have my laptop with me, gaming laptop with me, I can play Grim Dawn for a few rounds here and there while doing something else. So that's fantastic. They do have Last Epoch do have the solo self-found or at a character or count level. That is from day one as well. It took Diablo 3, I don't know how many years to even figure that thing out as a solo self-found, and from character account level. So that's really good. This game doesn't cost that much money compared to, say, some of the more recent production, like again Diablo 4. You pay, I think you'll probably be paying less than half of it, depending on which market you're from, or even 1/3 of what a Diablo 4 game is. It says a lot about the pricing of the game. I think it's very reasonable. So yep, all in all, these are some of the points that I've covered, and I think I don't really have a lot of complaint about this game. I already covered it in my points before. I think just to call out a few that is very obvious, and I don't think that it will change in near term. The storytelling is not as in depth as, say, Diablo 4. So I have to give credit where it's due. I think Diablo 4 has done a masterpiece when it comes to telling a story, be it as the story in terms of the main story, as well as the environments that you can click on it and view it, as well as all the lore that you can talk to people as well. So that is like a gold standard, a masterpiece of storytelling. Actually, in fact, Grim Dawn is another one that is a masterpiece when it comes to story, even better than Diablo 4 if you ignore the production value of it. In Grim Dawn, the decision you make will have a different outcome to the story, not necessarily to yourself as a character, be as more powerful or not all the time. There are some, it's just a story point whereby if you do this, something will happen. If you don't do this, something else will happen. But either way it happens, it just tell you a story. And there's a lot of hidden lore everywhere in Grim Dawn. And in Grim Dawn is so overwhelming with the amount of lore that in the first playthrough, you probably would not even explore and even read through everything. But as you play more and more, you learn more and more about the story. And that is really cool, because the replayability of Grim Dawn, for example, is how much you want to discover a story. You learn a lot more about the gods and so on. You learn a lot more when you interact with all these nodes and talk to the people in the game. So the replayability is the story itself. So different game designed differently. Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor is a very strong kind of like storytelling as well, although it's limited by the amount of kind of like mission variety they can do. I think they're trying to do the best out of the engine that they have. But the story part is a beautiful story at the back of Warhammer 40,000. But this game is based on a whole new franchise, so there's no reference back to what it is. And I think they are trying the best to tell a story. through the campaign, which a lot of us will just click through because the voiceover is not that great, nor the sometimes the interaction of all the dialogue, just click through it, it's not that great as well. So I not necessarily enjoy the campaign at all. But I get the gist of all these different timelines, have different god to go against, and I think that's pretty epic in the sense. But I'm not. I myself is not invested in the story as well. So, and I suspect is that one aspect that they will not be able to do more, which is fine. I mean, a game is designed in a different philosophy, and this is just not a story kind of telling game, not a role-playing game in a strong story background, if that makes sense. But I do like the whole time travel concept. I think it's a novelty that they could have explored a little bit more. Because one of the dungeon require you to jump back and forth in time, and the boss will then chase you to another dimension or timeline to continue the fight, and then you have to go back and forth, and sometimes there's some penalty when you do that as well. So I thought the concept is really good. I just wish that they could explore this time travel concept a little bit more. I don't see many other ARPG that does it this way. So this is a very niche kind of like mechanism. But I think they don't want to over leverage on the whole time traveling kind of concept of the three different era. But I'm just hoping to see what other thing that they would come up with that. In conclusion, I would strongly recommend Last Epoch, especially if you're a fan of this genre. This is just the beginning, and I believe there are more to come. Thank you for watching this video, and I'm keen to hear your view too at the comment box below. Have fun with the game, and I will be back with more content as I'm taking my Necromancer beyond the first 160 hours of gameplay post patch 1.0. See ya.